when you come from making $5 a day to we're talking about millions of dollars in a contract, like, I got some opinions.
Welcome to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. I'm Alicia Jay, and today we have a very special interview for you. We have two women who have changed the face of women's soccer and women's sports forever and continue to do so. It's a pinch me moment for me, for sure. We have Briana Scurry and Brandi Chastain. Both of you. Are you kidding me? Like, I don't even know what to say. It's a pinch me moment for sure. As somebody who played sports, I played basketball. But also, in addition to that, I watched that 99 World Cup game, and it changed me forever, right? And going into that match, did you know the impact that it would have? Like, that morning, like, did you know that you were going to change women's soccer forever after that match?
Well, yes, on one level, but on a different level, what I knew was we had to win that game.
Yeah.
I mean, because
facts.
Yes, we had built up all this attention, this activity. I mean, all these different things were happening. I mean, we were the show. We were, on TV. We were in the papers and whatnot, and it was fantastic in that build-up. But we knew we had to finish the job, so it was really exciting. And for me, I just got back to business and made sure that I did my best out there, that we could hopefully win that game to put the cherry on top of everything that we had done. So that's what I thought.
I'm gonna say it in two ways: yes and no. Number one, I do this kind of. The future of women's soccer was hanging in the balance because all the media at that time was, if the U.S. women's national team does not win the World Cup, soccer will it will go away.
Yeah,
Implode. It will nobody will remember it. They have to win the World Cup for it to be a conversation going forward. So I think we did know that in a way. And we also were learning at the time, working with Dr. Colleen Hacker, about how do we only take in the things that will help us be successful. So we understood that all that attention was great because we're talking about women's sports, but also was really a lot of weight to carry. Right. And so I think the team did a great job of handling that. Did we know that we were going to... Honestly, when we drove up to the Rose Bowl, I don't think we all understood what it would be like going into that stadium.
Right.
Agree?
Right. Yes, I would agree. I mean,
and it was like, whoa!
Idea, but we had an idea, but the reality was, whoa.
Yeah, it was whoa. For sure. And so I would say we didn't really know that it would have this big, that's a pebble in the pond and the ripple goes out. Right. And then it's a big crash. Mm-hmm. But I would say we had been working hard to win this damn thing.
Absolutely.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And yet there was still a lot of weight because it wasn't just the future of our tomorrow. It was, and then the next tomorrow, and then our domestic, and then international, and so on and so on. So it was a lot.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How did you carry the weight? I mean, literally going into something you said you didn't know exactly what was going to happen, but you knew that there was a weight there. What was like the main thing that helped you carry that during that time? It was unprecedented.
I would say, so for me, this particular time and that game, and also for me, was I just have to focus on what I can control. I couldn't control all the opinions and all the fans and all the different things and how things could roll out. But I could control my performance, my intensity, my activity. And I knew that if I could just do what I needed to do, that my part, that we would be in good shape, as a goalkeeper in particular, because I have a lot of control in my mind over the outcome. Definitely. And so I needed to just be on my game and be ready for whatever might come. And then I didn't really worry about all that other stuff because I can't control any of that. So for me, just getting very singular in my purpose and my desire, my job, was the thing that helped me hold or handle that kind of weight.
And then I would say I look at it from a broader perspective. Bry's position was very specific for the field players, but I think as us as a collective, we worked really hard on the things in practice that we needed to do so that we could be successful during the games. I think we also worked on our relationships and our time together, and we really enjoyed one another. We weren't all the same. In fact, we were all quite very unique and different, but we really enjoyed being with each other. We had a lot of respect and a lot of trust, and we did a lot of exercises. We started working with sports scientists or Dr. Hacker in '96, and so I think we were well practiced. And here are the things we need. Here are the things we don't need. Here are the things we can control. Here are the things we absolutely cannot control. Just like a funny thing that she gave us was a card that said, "Not my problem." If someone came to you with something that was not going to help you, you could flash that card, "Not my problem." And that was for our parents mainly, during big events where they want tickets or they want to know what's going on. But that it's true for everybody. You can't solve all the problems. You can't do all the things. And you just have to prepare yourself and work with your environment so that you can be the best prepared as you can.
I know I want some of those cards right now. They're not give me some of those so I can hand them out. Those would be great. But when I think about, so you have the cards, you guys have, a lot of weight on your shoulders, you're handling it well. Obviously, we saw the outcome of what happened in that match. Is there a story that you could tell us that we don't normally know about that time? I have both of you here, so I'm sure you have a lot of stories.
Well, I would say just on that specific day, you coming to the World Cup final, there's a lot of anticipation. You've been to a lot of games in your life, but this one's different. We roll up in the bus, you see the plethora of cars parked around the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl is a humongous stadium. We pull in, and it's not sexy underneath the stadium. This is an old stadium. It was dank, it was dark, it was kind of musty. We get to the locker room, and in that day and age, they played the third, fourth place game before the final. So that game goes in a tie, so they have to go to penalty kicks, which pushes the time back. Then there's a concert with a gal by the name of J-Lo.
Okay.
Yeah. So
maybe. I think I know who she is.
We know that girl. We know you, girl. We don't get to warm up on the field. We're running in the locker room in a circle. We're up and down. We're kicking the ball against the wall. Yeah, and now you're in the biggest game of your life. The future of women's soccer is hanging in the balance, not just for here, but my granddaughters, everybody's nieces and nephews and all the women around the world. And now you don't even get to go to the field to get ready. What do? I'm happy to say the moral of this story is we did so much preparation and we worked so hard to get to that moment that we knew we were going to be fine. Right. And that's the truth. I think that, to me, that speaks about the people that we had on that team in that time.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, with regards to that we were ready, it's easy for people to understand athletes on one hand, that preparation, maybe some superstitions, maybe some different things in the way you get ready, that gets your mind ready for the occasion. There's certain things you do in a certain order. But that day, like you said, on the biggest of all stages and the biggest of all days, none of that. None of that. Right? So that mentally, thank goodness we were prepared, because it was an absolute opposite of what it should have been like, but it ended up being no problem. So fascinating. Yeah.
It's just truly amazing to me to think about what you did that day and how you had to change kind of what you did going into it. And people didn't even know that, They're just seeing the match, they're seeing, the outcome of it. and not understanding all that went into that. But obviously, you said you prepared for it. You had, like almost a routine that prepared you for it, right? But how did you prepare, or how could you even prepare for what happened afterwards? Because I'm sure that, it just like catapulted on every level. So what was that time like for you? And how did you react to kind of like the stardom that happened? And also, how did it happen? Because with social media now, everything is so instant. And I know that that wasn't necessarily the case, but I know I remember seeing it everywhere. I remember seeing the save. I remember seeing the goal. I remember seeing, the iconic moments. But what was it like during that time to have all of that happen at once, truly, after working so hard to get there?
Yeah, it was a fascinating time. So that day, July 10th was the final. The next day, we were on every single front page of every newspaper in every city in this country, which is almost unheard of unless it's like a World Series or a Super Bowl. So ours was that popular and that noteworthy.
That was that instant moment.
Exactly.
In the way that media worked. Yeah.
Yes, then. And so for me, the next couple of days, my plan was to take some time off. So I stayed in Pasadena for the next couple of days. And the day after that, I was walking down the street and a guy came by with his car, put it in park, jumped out of the car, left it running, ran over to me and high-fived me and said, "Scurry, you're awesome." Ran back to his car, hopped in and drove off. And I was like, what just happened? That's when I knew something crazy had gone on with people, because plus it was a young male. Right, and so women's soccer hadn't necessarily been the landing place for men to watch sports, and now all of a sudden it was. So for me, that was the first indicator of something had really changed. And then the next several weeks and months, I did a lot of traveling, East Coast, West Coast, all over the place, doing different talk shows and different events. And all of a sudden, at the airport, I've been upgraded. I was on, normally economy, and I was in first class, and all these different things happened, and people recognized me all over the place, and it was very, very surreal and very strange, but it was exciting at the same time, because it was like, that's when I knew, yeah, everybody did see that game. You know what I mean? You think it's going to be the case, and then it's shown to you in real time, and everybody wanted to tell their story of where they were and how they felt, and they got emotional. And usually,
I can feel the emotion right now.
Yeah, and usually you don't have that kind of emotion unless it's something bad happened. Where you were when this happened, where you were when that happened. But this was an amazing event and something that stayed with people and it affected them viscerally. And you could see it in their eyes when they'd tell you the story about it. That's when I realized that something had definitely changed for us.
Even to this day, I meet people I've never met before. I was at that game. Okay, tell me everything. Tell me why you went, who you were with, what, all the things. I asked them all the things. So it wasn't just in that moment, honestly, like, the weeks and the months right after. I still think that time, we're so fortunate. We've been very blessed, I think. We had a great team. We had a great group of leaders with coaches and staff that helped us. And it was the perfect timing for this moment to happen. It's still taken a long time for us to get to today. We're 26 years later, and we're still talking about it. So I think that says how important that moment was. And I think it's mostly important for people because it made them feel something. They felt like they could celebrate that. That allowed them to see maybe even themselves having moments like that. That's the beauty of sports, really. Like, it gets them to think, like, I'm going to go out and do something. So, I mean, I was exhausted. I felt like I didn't sleep for, 6 months after that World Cup game.
How could you?
No, seriously. But I think I've said this, and I've heard this many times from some of our teammates, thank God social media did not exist during that time. It would have been, I think it would have been unmanageable, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I mean, for it to be on every newspaper, and at the time, that was the thing. Yeah. You wanted to be on those covers of the newspaper, magazines, all of that. I can't even imagine either. I can't imagine. Another thing I can't imagine is like as a Black woman, and I think about you being one of the only Black players at that time, and also one of the first openly gay players. How was that? I mean, I know that I listen to a lot of podcasts to get ready for this podcast. I like to obviously brush up on things. And I heard in one of them that you didn't even really realize that was one of the reasons why you weren't maybe getting like more marketing or more opportunities. And what was it like when you did realize that? Because that's a hard thing. I mean, I myself was one of the only Black. I grew up in Beaverton, Oregon, and I was one of 30 kids of color in my school district, and hardly saw any other Black players when I played. You know, had racial slurs on the court and all of those things, and so I feel it a little bit. But I'm just wondering, a lot bit actually. But I'm wondering at that time, you know, when you realized that was happening to you, how did it affect you moving forward as an athlete?
Well, I want to answer that question in two parts. So being the only openly gay player on my team and African-American player that had a court position as a starter, my teammates were always fantastic. Like, no matter what, no matter when, no matter if I needed something, you know, if I had struggles in my life, they met my girlfriends at the time, you know what I mean? Like, they were always there for me. And I never felt that I wasn't just like everybody else. And I felt that in my heart.
Don't make me cry, bro.
In my heart, because that's something I always want to make sure people understand. Any issues that I ever had with any of that was not internal. It was external. So the moment I realized that there was some kind of misunderstanding or discrimination, if you will, of any kind, was when I watched the game later, and after we won, I ran into the stands to go hug my girlfriend who was at the game. And the camera is following me all the way up. And once they realized that it was a woman, panned away. Now, I'm sorry, that was a TV moment of all moments to have gotten that, have me have that embrace and that exchange, but didn't want it. For the longest time, I thought it was because I was a goalkeeper as to why things were a little bit off. And I had so many people say, you should have gotten more of this, you should have got more attention, I can't believe it, you were amazing, this and that. I mean, people who I didn't know, whenever I'd have a conversation on daytime talk show or whatever the event was, somebody would say something like that to me. And I was like, I wonder why. It wasn't until many years later that I realized that it wasn't necessarily positional. It wasn't goalkeeper. It was either the color of my skin or the way I looked or the fact that I was out. And honestly, when I realized that was what it was very disappointing, because I felt like we were past that. I felt like it should be okay. I felt like I had done my job exceptionally well and our team was amazing. And so why not, have the fruits of that labor? And I just thought the society was in a different place. And unfortunately it wasn't. And it took a long time for me to come around to the realization that it was either my color or my orientation, because I didn't want it to be that. But I would have rather have had it been because I was a goalkeeper than to have it be because of those other things. Society just was not ready for me.
Do you think, this is kind of a hard question to ask, but it was almost a good thing that they didn't follow you that day because of what the reaction would have been based on that stage? Or would you have rather have made the statement that should have been made that day? Because that's a hard thing to think about, especially in the times, if that was one of the things that was holding you back. Do you think that it would have been a moment that almost would have been a detriment to you given the times that you were in at that time?
Ooh, that's a doozy of a question, right? I want to say no, because I'm not a cynical person, and because I have always half full glass person, and would like to think that that's not the case, but probably, unfortunately, probably. The interesting thing about that is, so that was 99, and in 2015, 16 years on, I'm at the World Cup in Canada with my wife at the final, and I'm watching, and I see a camera go to Abby, who was on the side going up into the stands, reaching for her then partner, and that camera, bam, stayed right there. And that image of Abby and her partner was an iconic image of that World Cup in 2015, and I saw that image everywhere afterwards. And so that made me feel really good, because then I was like, well, you know what? We've come a long way in 16 years, and look where we are now, because that image was an iconic image of that World Cup where, I mean, who's to say that mine couldn't have been in 99?
Absolutely. Brandi, did you know that your support meant, at that time, did you know your support meant what it meant to her at that time? Or were you just being a friend, a teammate? Or did you understand kind of, the power of what you were doing as almost an ally in her life?
I'm going to say no, because I don't think any of us treated Bri or anybody else on the team differently. We were all equals, we were peers, we were colleagues, we were friends. Honestly, I think we treated each other the same. But just sitting here and hearing you say that, Bri, and it touches me really deeply to know that we showed up for you in the way that you needed, and how even to this day, I think about, I could never know what it's like to be you. As much as I try, I will never know. And all I can do is be present and be willing to listen and to be supportive and to show up for you in the most human way possible. I'm super grateful to hear the words you said, and I'm relieved that you felt at ease and yourself, and that was never a struggle for you. I know that's not the case for everyone, and I'm honestly, it floors me to hear you be so happy and pleased and being yourself in that environment. I knew we were special, but now that even adds a little bit more. I'm really, honestly, it's really hard to put into words what that feels like. And I'm glad that we could be there in that way for you. She's my girl. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to witness you guys having this conversation in this way, because it's really important. What both of you have done is just, I don't think you even understand the power that you have given to women and athletes moving forward, whether it be me as a Black woman or a Black athlete, or just as a woman, period. The changes that you have made are reflected into soccer now and what is going on. And when you see the growth of women's soccer and women's sports in general, what are your thoughts on that? Because literally going from the time we just talked about in the powerful moment that it was and what it continues to be, and to seeing that translated on to the field or the court or wherever women are playing, how do you feel your impact is still being seen in those spaces?
We were just having some conversations in the room over just, about, we're in different places in our lives now. We're both parents, we're talking about parenting over there. We're not talking about when we were players, this is what, but, I think there's some degree in both of us that we don't want to fast track kids through sport and into this professional environment. We talked about enjoying it being with your friends, having fun. Like, this may be somebody's job in the future. Not everybody's going to have that job. And so I think even to these players that are going to be having the luxury, and congratulations to them because they've earned the right to be on that field, that I don't want to fast track them through like becoming these professionals. I want them to enjoy every moment. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be the best plays of the game. But, sports are a part of our lives for a reason. And there's a lot of reasons. Most of those are to mature, to grow up, to learn lessons, to make mistakes, to develop, to make great friends, lifelong friends. And why do you want to rush through that for youth sports? Like that's where my head goes when I think about this, because everybody wants to be the pro or everybody wants to be the one, and it's not real. That's not real. Like that cannot happen. So what can we get out of being a part of sports that will last for all of us? Like Sunday, I'm going to go to the park to watch my granddaughter play under 8 soccer. Like I want to see that joy and that fun and that excitement when the ball goes in the net and they all get together, and I'm like, oh God, that's so beautiful. So to me, I love where we are in women's sports. Dare I say, we want to elevate things? Of course we do. We want the environment to be better. I think the words equity and equality come up a lot. But I want us to be our unique selves. We don't need to be like anybody else. And I think that's our next challenge. We're not male sports, but we're sports. What does that mean to us? And I'm still actually trying to figure out how to welcome fans in who are they were historically men's sports fans because that's the only thing was on the menu. How do I bring them to women's sports so that they see it from a sports perspective, and why is it valuable? That's where I am right now, and that's what I need to tackle and I need to help figure out.
Well, and you're certainly doing that in so many ways. And I mean, we can talk about ownership and all of those things, but I'm really curious. We've talked about kind of what we want to see, and we're excited that women's sports is where it is, but what do you think still needs to happen when it comes to women's sports? Because there's some growth that still needs to happen. We've come a long way, but there's still a lot of growth.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say initially a little bit on to what Brandi said. I mean, the trajectory of women's soccer right now is literally vertical, and it has been for the last 3 to 5 years or so. And as someone who has been in the trenches of women's soccer growth for 30 years, and both of us, it's phenomenal to see what it's become right now, and the ownership groups, the different people, all the plans for training facilities and growth and all these different things in the game now, and it's really at a level where it's seen as a profitable potential business as opposed to charity, which we discussed earlier too, which is what it had been before, and now it's transformed into something else, and it's fantastic and orders of magnitude more valuable in a business perspective, licensing, broadcast rights, all of that. And these stadiums, this holds 18. I'm sure 18,000 will be here tomorrow. And I love all of that, absolutely, without a doubt. But the other side of that, when you're asking me about what needs to happen next, is all of this growth has literally happened in 5 years. Yeah. And it took 30 to get it to the point where this last 5 has been productive. And it's big leaps, And so what I think needs to happen more is we need to understand what women's soccer is, what this business is, and to how be more inclusive, like Brandi was saying. bringing more people into the fold, getting people to understand the importance in the communities that they're in, what this game can do for them, getting a broader fan base of people, making sure it's inclusive to everyone. And as much as I love inclusivity, it's fairly recent that it's been more broad. For example, NWSL now has several players from African nations that are absolutely killing it and crushing it, and that is very recent development to have happened. So I think more international players coming in and making their living here would be helpful as well, and just more investment, and with companies that want to grow this game with us arm in arm, not just come show up, put their broadcast, their thing on the banner or on the thing and then go away. But they need to invest and get in here with us and see how we can grow together. I think that's important. The type of investor and type of business that's alongside of us.
Well, you mentioned international play, and there's a conversation that's going around right now about the salary cap specifically, and how that is affecting just women's soccer as a whole and bringing people more to play internationally, right? Because of the money and the salaries that are going around. What are both of your thoughts? And I know I'm probably opening up a whole new conversation, okay? But what are your thoughts on the salary cap and what that is, how that is going to change women's soccer in general, right? Trinity Rodman right now is the hot topic that everyone's talking about, and where is she going to go and how much she's going to make and how that will catapult her career. So what are your thoughts on that specifically when we move into this kind of like new phase with women's soccer? It's going to change it. It's definitely going to change it.
Yeah, this is a big conversation.
Yeah.
It's a big conversation for a lot of different reasons and from a lot of different perspectives. You can look at it from the ownership perspective. You can look at it from the league perspective. You can look at it from the player perspective. All of them have their needs, right? And all of them want to be successful. Like that's the foundation. We all have to know we're coming from the same place. We all want women's soccer to be successful. We want the NWSL to thrive. We believe it's the best league in the world because it's the most competitive. It allows our players to be challenged every week. We've said it many times. Every match we have, the outcome is unknown. In leagues elsewhere, maybe 2 teams are at the top. Maybe there's a third that challenges every now and again. I don't think there's a comparison. They play the same game, but the leagues are top to bottom much different. So I feel like NWSL has that. We have that cachet. We can talk about that. Why do players want to come here? For that reason alone. I'm going to speak from a player perspective who did go overseas. I played in Japan for a year. At the time, we didn't have a league. So for me, it was my outlet. Our players have choices. They have a choice to stay home or they have a choice to go overseas. And I think a lot of the time the conversation is driven by money. But money doesn't make it better. So I'm not saying I would never begrudge anyone from taking the leap and making that change. But ultimately, we're individuals, and we make our own choices. And what might work for Briana might not work for me. So in that way, I'm like, to each his own. That's up to each player. Have an experience in your life. You're young. You might only have this one chance. I get that part. From the league perspective, as a person who's invested in this league, from a team perspective, we would like more money. Of course, we would like to be able to spend more money because we can attract and we can keep the players who may be thinking about leaving or the players who would love to come. We have to do more on the business side. That's not poking anybody in a negative way. That's just like, okay, here's what we have in front of us. This is the challenge we have. Just like we challenge our players to be better every day. They go out onto that field, we judge them. We evaluate, we analyze, we critique what they do. We also have to do that of ourselves on the league level. Does salary cap work for everybody? Are we in a comfortable place? How can we elevate this league? That's our challenge. And we have to be up to that challenge. So it's not an easy question to answer. It's not the same for all the buckets. It would be understandable for Trinity to evaluate, like it would be for all the players to evaluate the options. I want all of our players to be here, but I also want our players to have experiences. And I know that my experience away from here was extremely valuable for when I came back and we had our league then in the future. We have to evaluate how we're running our business, and we might have to get out of our comfort zone.
I love that you say challenge, comfort zone, all of those things, because, a lot of people would say that, they're behind. They haven't like accounted for what's going on in this movement, in the different monies that are coming at these players right now from these different leagues. But I think with everything, the growth is happening fast. The money is happening fast. These, leagues are happening fast, right?
You
too.
heard that saying, too,
So,
like buyer beware. Like we have to also beware.
Yeah.
Money is not always the answer to things. It definitely helps in some ways, but we do have to be mindful. So I'm not saying we go like, all right, sky's the limit. Well, we can't do that.
Right.
That wouldn't be good business either. So our league has to, again, we have to challenge ourselves to find the threshold that is pushing the limit, but not going to devastate the league. And that's the tipping point that we're asking for.
Absolutely.
Also, with regards to what I said earlier about the last 3 to 5 years. So if you were to take a snapshot of the NWSL in 2020, right before COVID hit, it was a very different landscape. I mean, you could probably buy in on a team between 4 million. Well, okay, 1 to 3. I was going to be generous.
Yeah.
1 to 3 million. Most recently, Atlanta was at 165.
Yep.
165 million. That was 5 years difference between the two things. Bay FC 53, something like that. 53. Denver 110. So that's orders of magnitude, like multiple times more. But you can't necessarily just, like she said, ratchet up everything else that comes with that. So that's going to take time. But it can't be the same as it was 5 years ago. It has to. The salary cap has to increase. I don't see how you can justify not doing it because of the growth of the fee to have a team, the broadcasting, the licensing, all these different things. Women's basketball, WNBA having a similar type of movement go on with Caitlin Clark there. Clearly 5 to 10 times better with everything price tag wise. Things have to come up. And I would say that the leagues, both of them, and the ownership groups of the teams, maybe not penny for penny, dollar for dollar, but you have to see it through the player's point of view. You were this way before, and now you're here. Don't drag your feet too long, is what I would say on getting those gains being bigger for the player, because there are other places to go that will be better. And maybe for Trinity in particular, maybe that is the right choice for her now. Granted, she made her way here. Originally, this is the league that helped her become Trinity Rodman, the footballer. And maybe it's time for her to go someplace else and then maybe come back again. But like you said, every player has to make that decision. Men have to do it also in their different leagues. And so it's no different here. Those growing pains, which are good, but you have to take the grow with the pain as well.
Absolutely. You talked about Trinity a little bit. We're talking about her in this conversation. Can you just speak to her as an athlete? I mean, she's definitely exploded. We've seen her growth, but can you just give me a little bit on how you guys feel just about her as an athlete and her trajectory, regardless of where she goes?
So I've known about Trinity since early 2019, 2020, and saw when she came in to the league. I actually was assigned to be her mentor if she needed me when she was at the Spirit her first season. I've always felt that she has incredible talent. I mean, it's all there physically. We were talking about this earlier. The heading, the speed, the defense even, reading the game and whatnot. She's coming a long way. And she's a fantastic talent already. But she is still very young. And there's a lot more growth to occur. And there's a lot of, like you were talking about earlier, about weight on one's shoulders to do things. She's the face of this league, more or less, in my opinion, and there's a lot of weight with that. And so sometimes there's a spotlight that is really, really bright, and sometimes you can maybe want to turn it down a little bit. But I think from a player and a talent point of view, it's all there, but still trying to figure out how to best be the player that she's going to become. And I think national team and club are continuing to try to see what that's going to look like.
I think that she's been gifted a phenomenal physique and a physical talent that not a lot of people get to experience. And now it's how does she want to define herself as a player? How does she want to show up as a leader? What are the things that she can do in the game that make a difference? I think there's a lot left. There's a lot of room for her to grow. That's not to say that she hasn't done a lot of growth already. And that's not being critical. That's just being, just watching her evolution and saying that to have the talent that she has, I want to see Trinity impact the game more. Like, honestly, I look forward to tomorrow night. I want to see how many actions she has, how many times she demands the ball, how many times she gets the ball in, let's say, positive positions, how many times does she have to come back to help and work to get the ball into the attacking third. Like, I want to see her influence more of the game because she can. Like, that's there. And we were talking again, just having regular friendly banter about does she impact the game enough? Does she show up as much as she could or she should? That's my opinion, or that's my, so I think the fact that we're talking about her means that she is a significant piece of this game. I would like to see more of her. I would like to see her step up in a leadership role where I see her not just being interested in scoring goals, being in the development of the play, engaging in more conversation, with her teammates in a tactical way, and then of course celebrating when the good things happen.
Well, as we're sitting here, I'm just thinking, I wish we had hours to talk, right? Because
together we can talk
right. There's so many things that we could talk about in your career, in your story, in your career. There's so many things, but since we don't have all day to talk about it, you've accomplished so many things in both of your stories, right? What do you still want to accomplish? This is what I want to talk about, and what I want people to see is, in everything that you've done and how you've affected the game in the ways that you have, what do you still want to accomplish when it comes to just even in your life, but also in women's soccer? How do you want to affect it moving forward?
Well, we were just talking about this too. I think my goal is to be the best parent I could be, and how hard parenting is, and showing up for my family in a way that they know that they're cared for and supported, and it's hard. That's been the biggest challenge in my life. I'm not quite in the position I want to be, and I want to be better at that. And I in the same way, I think about the fans that come through the gate. You know, I want actually even before the gate, because I have a tailgate before every game, and I want the fans to come. Like, hey, you're walking by, come over. This is what my mom would have done. You know, invite people into this community, and whether they're a veteran of sports, whether they've never been to sports, whether they know the rules or not, they don't know the players, they know the players, doesn't matter to me. Like, honestly, I believe this environment has a chance to change the world. And, you know, the game is so great because it speaks every language and one language at the same time. You know, it doesn't matter what corner of the globe you come from, you throw a ball into the middle of people, it makes sense all of a sudden. You know, we may have different tactics, but it can orchestrate us getting along. It can give us a chance to uplift ourselves, to express ourselves. So for me, it's a people thing. You know, I will always drive people first. And that's a player first. That's taking care of the players, but also holding them accountable. Like, honestly, you don't get all these things. And I say this because I saw nothing at the beginning. You know, when you come from making $5 a day to we're talking about millions of dollars in a contract, like, I got some opinions, you know, and I want us to stay the humble, grounded people that we are, because ultimately at the end of the day, it's always about people.
I'm also coming to tailgate, so just get ready. Like,
I love it. You're invited anytime.
I would like to see in myself some growth. I, like Brandi, am now a bonus mom. I have 2 kids, an amazing wife. I have an amazing family, and what soccer has given me is so valuable to me. And now when I'm not on the pitch anymore, I actually, for a living, I speak. I do keynote speaking, corporations, organizations. I have partners where I can take the things that I learned in the game, that the game has taught me, you know, resilience, overcoming obstacles, leadership, teamwork, all these different things. And in my speaking, I have replaced the game with the stage, the field with the stage now. And so when I speak, I try to relate to people in a way where I'm vulnerable and sharing my story with them and the things I've been through, the good and the really difficult stuff. And I feel like by being authentic and sharing that, that's how I'm making impact now with the companies and the partners that I work with to help those people grow and to help those people be inspired and to be able to become the people that they want to be. And I think that's the exact same thing that our teams did on the pitch with the impact we've had in a positive way. Because for me, there's no better thing than impacting someone positively. I mean, that moment that they see what you're doing, whether I'm speaking or playing, and I reach them where they are, and it changes the path for them in a positive way, that for me is one of the greatest gifts. And that's not something I necessarily understood when I played, but I definitely understand it now. And so I want this next 40 years of my life to be as impactful as the first 40 years was, in a different way.
well, I know that this conversation has certainly been impactful for me in every single way and impactful for everybody out here as well. So I just want to thank you so much for taking the time out. I know it's a busy weekend. The foundation is certainly strong and the future is certainly bright. And I appreciate everything that you said today. And, you know, you do not want to miss these conversations moving forward. So make sure that you subscribe, like, comment, do all the things, because we're going to bring you these conversations and these beautiful moments that we had, like we had today right here on We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T.